Theresa May is in a tough position. In one of our recent Brexit Explained videos, we discussed what would happen if May's deal wasn't successful in the House of Commons. Whether it would result in a general election, a second referendum, or her being voted out by her own party, it doesn't look like May has the best few months coming up. During that video, we asked whether you'd be interested in hearing who could replace May, who could step into that political void. The response was that you clearly were interested in the video, so that's what we'll be discussing today. How Theresa May might be ousted as Prime Minister and who might replace her. Now there's a good chance that none of this will end up happening anytime soon. May seems almost politically invincible. Every time someone resigns or complains about her, she seems to come out of the other end as Prime Minister. There's a new reason every week why she can't hold on, but she does. So though it might never happen, let's look at how it might. There are basically two ways that May could go at the moment. Save a surprise general election, which is possible but not probable. Either she resigns, or the MPs in her party trigger a no-confidence vote. That happens if 15% of the 317 Conservative MPs in Parliament, so 48 people, send letters of no confidence to the 1922 Committee, the Conservative Committee for Backbenchers, which has been chaired by Graham Brady since 2010. Given that she's made clear that she won't be resigning, it seems like the only way that she could be ousted anytime soon is if Sir Graham Brady receives 48 letters. No one knows exactly how many he's received so far. The only thing we do know is that it hasn't been 48 just yet. According to most Westminster sources, he has likely received somewhere between 25 and 35 letters. Although, again, we can't be sure. The European Research Group, run by Jacob Rees-Mogg, has been trying to keep a running tally, but given how misplaced their confidence was that they reached the 48-letter threshold, they probably don't know either. This has never really been an issue before. Usually a whole load of letters are sent at once, triggering a leadership contest almost immediately. However, letters have been trickling in for May. It's likely that some MPs may have sent their letters a long time ago, and may have even changed their mind since then. At a Tory party conference fringe meeting, Brady suggested that you might even have to double check with MPs who sent their letters some time ago in case they changed their minds in the subsequent days, weeks and months. This isn't to say that May commands the confidence of the remaining 280 or so MPs. Many Conservative MPs don't like Theresa May or her Brexit deal, but are unlikely to send in letters now because they don't think it's the right time to be triggering a leadership contest, especially as crunch time for Brexit draws ever nearer. Having a government in disarray probably wouldn't help negotiate future trade deals, and regardless, there isn't enough time for a new Prime Minister to negotiate a new deal from scratch. Also, they know that if May survived a no-confidence vote, according to Conservative Party rules, they'd have to wait another 12 months before triggering another one. So this year-long immunity means that it's crucial that they trigger it at just the right time. So how does a leadership contest actually work? Well, once the 48 letters have been sent in, Sir Graham Brady would then inform the Prime Minister and the Chief Whip, Julian Smith, directly, and call for a vote as quickly as possible. All Conservative MPs would then vote on whether or not they had confidence in the Prime Minister. If a simple majority of 159 MPs were to vote against May, then she'd be forced to resign. However, if even a sizable chunk of the party were to vote against her, it's likely that she'd have to step down once so much of the party have expressed their disapproval. So let's say that she steps down. Ideally only one candidate will put themselves forward and win by default. However, given the number of MPs who've been touted as possible challengers, this is very unlikely. What's more likely is that at least 3 MPs will stand for leadership. Conservative MPs will then vote on candidates, eliminating the least popular candidate in each round until only 2 remain. The 1922 committee will then set a date for the final vote and arrange debates between the candidates. The final vote is open to all Conservative members, not just MPs. Whoever wins that will be their new leader, and probably the new Prime Minister. So now for the interesting question. Who's going to win? Well, short answer, we have no idea. But let's go through some of the favourites and what their chances are. Let's start with the obvious candidate, Boris. While he never says it, it's been obvious to anyone who even occasionally looks at the news that Boris Johnson really wants to be Prime Minister. He tried in 2016, but was famously stabbed in the back by Michael Gove, who instead decided to go for it himself. Since then, he spent his time pitching himself as the one true Brexiteer, rubbishing Chequers, and coming up with some typical Boris catchphrases along the way. This seems to have worked well. In polls, Boris regularly comes out as the most popular among Conservative members, 70% of which are Brexiteers. So if he gets to the last two, he stands a good chance of winning. However, he probably needs to rally some support among MPs if he wants to get there. He doesn't have any support within the Remainer wing of the party, and dozens of MPs, including Dominic Grieve, have threatened to resign if he becomes party leader. He's unpopular outside of Conservative membership, so if Conservatives want to win the next general election, MPs might be wary about picking Boris. Sajid Javid is the next most popular potential candidate amongst the Conservative membership, and he's also more popular in the general public than Boris, as he's seen as a more modern Conservative. Although he was a Remainer, he's had a pragmatic approach to Brexit and proven himself to be a competent Foreign Secretary. He's not a big name, but that might work to his advantage if he does want to create a reformed, modern Conservative party. In a recent YouGov poll, he came out on top against every other candidate except Jacob Rees-Mogg, so if he gets to the final two, he could well be our next Prime Minister. That's a nice segue onto Jacob Rees-Mogg himself, another MP who could be in number 10 very soon. While Mogg is relatively popular among Conservative members, he's not particularly popular with the general public. He's also given an interview recently, which suggests he's going to back Boris, probably in return for a major ministerial position if Boris wins. And he's ruled out him running on numerous occasions. The only Conservative politician who's popular with the general public is Ruth Davidson. Her approval rating on YouGov is 7, making her the only potential candidate with a positive rating, and no small one at that. However, she's ruled against running in an interview with the Sunday Times, claiming that it would take too much of a toll on her mental health. She's also a member of the Scottish Parliament, and not an MP in Westminster. This doesn't mean that it's impossible for her to become leader or Prime Minister, it's only a convention that the PM is an MP, just that it makes it more unlikely. Alright, so on to the next one. Yes, there's more. David Davis has been touted as a sort of caretaker Prime Minister, who would get Brexit done properly and then hand over the job to someone else. However, whether or not to trust him to step down after a year is an open question, and most MPs don't want to see him fighting in a general election. Although popular with Conservative members, he's not popular or even that well known with the general public, so they might not want to risk the possibility of him making it to a general election. So let's just quickly go through the last couple of possible contenders. Amber Rudd is likely ruled out because she's a Remainer, and both Jeremy Hunt and Michael Gove have political histories that make them very unpopular with the general public. The last possible genuine candidate is Dominic Raab. He's young, only became an MP in 2010, and backed Leave. He's also not an ardent Brexiteer, and is well liked by both Remain and Leave wings of the party. He hasn't got the same star power as the other names on this ridiculously long list, but Conservative MPs and members might think that a fresh face is needed to win another general election. Alright, so that's the end of our list of potential candidates, but we've missed one thing, the possibility of another general election. There are two ways of triggering a general election. The first is if 2/3 of MPs vote for one. Even though the Conservatives have somewhat of a tenuous majority, achieving 2/3 support would require 434 MPs to vote for a general election, so that is very unlikely to happen. However, only a simple majority is needed for a vote of no confidence in the government, which is far more likely. If this happens, according to the Fixed Term Parliament Act, MPs are then given 2 weeks to try and form a new government. If they fail to do this, then it goes to a general election. So that means we might have to add Jeremy Corbyn to the list of people who could end up taking Theresa May's job. If you want us to go into more detail about the potential of a vote of no confidence in the government and the way that this could lead to a general election, like this video and comment down below to let us know. If you want to stay up to date with UK politics and Brexit news, subscribe to TLDR News on YouTube. And while you're at it, we're on all of the major social networks, so give us a like or follow across all of the platforms.